Horror games have always been pretty big on the internet. There always seems to be a market for those who like seeing others scream and overreact at spooky monsters, and most small horror games do fairly well because of this. But for some reason none of them can compete with a guy that doesn't know how to write a story or model a human being, apparently. When FNAF came out, it basically created a massive whirlpool sinkhole for all other games to just revolve around. You know how our galaxy has like a black hole in the middle and everything else just goes around that? Yeah, that's basically FNAF. I'd like to see a universe where FNAF didn't take off and how indie games would have been if this guy actually knew how to make cute characters. Like, would we have gotten a Granny movie or something? So I'm not going to talk about FNAF today. I'm going to be looking at the rest of the games that revolve around the center of our universe. Games like FNAF that became popular for a short while and then just like disappeared. I'm definitely not buying all these games as well, so most of my info is from like Let's Plays and wikis and stuff, so if I get something wrong, my bad. Also, I'm gonna try and be brief with these because we got a lot of games to go through, and if I miss a few, put a comment down below and maybe I'll make a follow-up video. With that in mind, I think before we get into our escape from Skibbity Pibbity, we need to show some respect for our elders and address the type of game that existed before the Mascot horror, right at the dawn of time, 2010. Survival horrors aren't like the normal kind of survival. The monster doesn't leave you alone if you've got a fresh water filter built in a farm. No, these games are called this because they are tense, hard as shit, and like extremely gritty for some reason. They also just like to mess with your brain, like make this shit as confusing as possible, cause obviously you're gonna be more scared if you have no idea what's going on. FNAF is pretty good at that. You got games like Cry of Fear, Outlast, and the big daddy itself, Amnesia: The Dark Descent. Amnesia is a game that looks and plays like Skyrim, but instead of fighting dumbass skeletons through overly complicated corridors, you get to run away from droopy potatoes in overly complicated corridors. This game is pretty good and definitely still worth a play nowadays. Like I mentioned, the story is a bit confusing, but the atmosphere is great. Like, not too many games take place in old castles. I think that's because a lot of horror focuses too much on science fiction, and like any time period after the invention of the fiber optic cable. Not to mention the game is just generally creepy and tense, as any survival horror should be. I recommend you give it a shot if you've got time. There is a slight problem though. Amnesia was a great game, don't get me wrong, but it was too scary for toddlers, and its length was becoming a problem as the average internet user's dopamine receptors were starting to burn up. We needed something that anyone could enjoy, something simple, something short. We needed a hero. We needed some spaghetti.
Spaghetti!
Smells like the creepy pasta's ready.
I'm putting the majority of creepypastas in one category as they all sorta don't have official games and kinda were just icons for short stories. Most of these blew up because apparently only 2 people knew how to use Photoshop at the time, and most of these were just like screamers or childhood game but evil, like Ben Drowned or Sonic.exe, which had its own game but was just some levels from Sonic but janky and evil. You also had stories like Jeff the Killer, which was just some pale-faced evil guy. The old story was about how he was bullied and they like disfigured him, making him white with like a Joker smile and stuff, and he went crazy and killed everybody. Like, watch out dude, he's gonna Jeff the Kill you next. The only game I remember seeing people play from this time that wasn't shit was that Sonic.exe game, and it still was pretty short. I actually don't know too much about most of the creepypastas as I was probably too busy playing Lego games. So my biggest experience with these characters was when they were all slumped together into one thing, like on Roblox or something. And I mean, all these YouTubers would still play all these shitty games made for these guys, so I thought I would mention them, as someone in the comments is gonna be sad I didn't mention fucking Smile Dog or something. There was this one creepypasta guy though. A guy that actually caught my attention and got a game. A fella I hold near and dear to my heart.
Slenderman, Slenderman, all the children try to run. Slenderman, Slenderman.
It's Slenderman! bless you.
In 2009, somebody made this creepy Photoshop of a faceless guy hanging around children like a creep. I guess he was ahead of his time. It was a fairly decent Photoshop job, but for some reason this concept of a faceless man dressed in a suit just caught on really quick, and a lot of people started making content for this new horror icon, the Slender Man. I mean, obviously you had the game, which we'll get to, but you also had like non-game stuff, such as Marble Hornets, which was basically VHS ARG bullshit before that was even a thing. I mean, it plays out more like the Blair Witch Trials than Mandela Walton Training Catalog Tape Episode 7, but it still kind of follows the traditional format. Upload some old tapes, things seem normal at first, but then people start going crazy, you know? And it's okay. I remembered it better back then, and I don't think I ever finished it, and I see why. This shit is long, and you can tell in most shots that the Slender Man is just a guy in a costume. Cause in the game, he kinda supernatural teleports, but in this, he's just some dude running. And I know they couldn't do much better than that, but it's still kinda funny to me. And this shit is probably still better than that Slender Man movie, I don't know, I never saw it. That's not all though. You didn't just watch Slender Man, you play him too.
It's kind of, I'm like in Slender right now, like not inside him in the dirty sense.
Slender the 8 Pages released on June 26, 2012 and was a massive hit. Damn near everybody played this game, and it makes sense. It was free, simple, and looked like shit. I would argue this was where the whole overreacting to mildly spooky thing on YouTube started. Maybe Jeff the Killer started that, I don't know. But this game was just not that scary. Yet you had damn near everybody screaming at the top of their lungs when they see this poorly modeled white-faced man. The game is just about finding pages. You're placed in the woods, terrible flashlight, some stock Unity assets, and you gotta find all the pages. But you can't look at Slender Man for too long, or you will go insane and die, I think. It was a simple concept, and I'm not upset about that. A lot of the content I grew up with and a lot of the other games I'm going to talk about today owe their success to this game. Slender the 8 Pages set a standard for shitty cookie-cutter indie horror, and I'm here for it. There was eventually a half-decent Slender Man game called Slender Arrival, and I think the general consensus is that it's okay. I tried to play it on my channel, but it got kinda boring. Like, don't get me wrong, it was actually scary at times and was just overall well put together, but it used very simple mechanics and I just got bored, I couldn't finish it. Slender Man just sorta stuck around for a while after that game, at least it stuck around with me. But in 2014, the Slender Man stabbings happened, and after these events, anything related to Slender Man was taken out of the reach of any kids, including me. I remember getting home from school and my mom freaking out after seeing this on the news. She knew I was a pretty big fan of the character at the time, and she made me swear to never bring up Slender Man again. It definitely left its mark, but was basically censored out of everyone's lives for a while. And they still made a shitty movie about it. Like, why did they make a movie about a character that had barely any lore? Anyways, we wouldn't have to live in a world devoid of cheap horror shit for long, because we would get an actually good horror game soon enough.
This morning's school sign is supposed to read, sewage plant field trips are today. So can either of you explain why it now reads...
Mobile Task Force Unit Epsilon 11, designated 9...
SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect, and much like some other indie horror stuff I'll be looking at later, it started as something on 4chan, the scariest place for anything. Basically, it was a scary story in the form of like a research document explaining the functions of SCP-173, a guy that was damn near indestructible, moved when you looked away from him, and if he got too close to you, he would snap your neck. If you know what a weeping angel is, he basically worked like that. The article would go over experiments made with this anomaly, and it was just overall kinda creepy. This started the whole SCP brand, and pretty soon other people started making their own SCPs in this format, and a website was made for it. This website existed for a while and got better moderation and stories as it went along, well, for the most part. There were some dumb SCPs on there, like just some really stupid ones, but eventually somebody was inspired by these stories and a few games were made. One was a spooky staircase I'm not going to talk about, and the other game was Peak. SCP Containment Breach was the first game I played on this channel. Please don't go watch those videos, please. They're not good, please. Just they're not even funny, they're just not good. And it's pretty nostalgic for me. The SCP community has grown so much since this game, but I still think it's one of the best SCP games ever made. Mostly because the rest are shitty Unity games, and it's still one of my favorite horror games. You start the game in a cell, you're a Class D subject. Basically, in the SCP universe, it's considered that the SCP Foundation takes death row inmates and like pretty bad people and runs experiments on them to test the SCPs they've captured. And you're one of those people. You can read a document on the desk about your role in this game, but before you get too far, you hear a knock on the cell door. 2 guards arrive to escort you to an experiment involving SCP-173. You can't run away, so you end up in SCP-173's chamber with some other death row freaks. Something goes wrong with the doors and lights, and then boom, you're free. The game is called SCP Containment Breach because all the SCPs have breached the containment. Your goal is to escape, but since there's a bunch of SCPs around, it's pretty tough. I would say a majority of the challenge comes from not knowing how these SCPs work, forcing the player to have to read these papers scattered around detailing what a creature does and if it will kill you. And even when you think you have that all figured out, you still might run into some trouble because this game has a manual save system that lets you softlock yourself extremely easily. Usually a result of saving right before you will unknowingly be jump scared, and to this day I never figured out how to load older saves for this game. This game also has multiple endings and just a lot of depth for such a small indie game. I highly recommend you play this one, it's free. Hell, you could even try the multiplayer mod on Steam, though it's a bit buggy. And the only reason I bring this game up in this video is because once again you had every YouTuber under the sun playing this one, or at least all the YouTubers at the time, these were early days. I think Markiplier has replayed it a comical number of times, like once every update, and this game just overall brought a lot of people into the SCP fandom, a fandom that is huge now and has a bunch of stuff like games, movies, and animations. But let's shelve the rest of that for later, because there's a lot more games we have to talk about. Our timeline here is going to have a bit of a discrepancy. I don't know if I just forgot a game or just like nothing happened, but for some reason there's nothing to talk about in 2013, or at least nothing I remember. I guess we just lived with all this stuff and got like no new game. If I'm forgetting one, let me know, but we got another big problem. A year later, FNAF came out, and FNAF took over everything. This shit was huge and stayed huge for a while, because our next game on my list here is in 2016. And I think that's because Undertale also came out, so for about 2-ish years, people were too busy debating about FNAF lore and watching shitty Undertale DeviantArt comic dubs, and just milking every last drop out of these franchises. Like, it's crazy how my YouTube feed used to be mostly FNAF stuff. So yeah, we're fast forwarding to the next big, horror in quotations here, game.
Just quit my gig at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, and I'm starting over fresh. Hello, neighbor. Nice to meet you. Let's go.
Hello Neighbor is one of the worst examples I'm going to discuss today, because with most other franchises you see improvement, but this just did not do that. I remember a lot of YouTubers playing the alpha, and it was a pretty good start of a game. Basically, you move into a house across the street from this 1940s stereotypical neighbor guy with a mustache, except his house is kind of funky, and he got rubber gloves on, and there's some like weird shit going on in his basement, like a car crash, and so what do? Do you call the police, the HOA? Nah bro, you just go in there and see what's up. Basically, this game is just you breaking and entering. It had a very unique art style, but also had some pretty decent mechanics with the Hello Neighbor AI. If you ever failed a path, the neighbor would learn that and start to defend that path more, like with cameras and traps. This sort of creates a unique experience for every player type deal that everyone's so obsessed with nowadays. So this neighbor would try to stop you from entering while you were solving some wacky ass puzzle because this basement was locked up like Fort Knox. But once you finally get to the basement, it's got like satanic shit and you get caught by the neighbor and buried alive. Pretty cool, pretty simple, still needed some work. And oh boy did they work on it. For some reason the Hello Neighbor devs knew they had a hit on their hands and then just started a beeline down the road of shitty game land. Like every update added more stuff but seemed to make the game worse. I think this game was most popular and most shit when the neighbor's house was like 5 stories tall and defied the laws of physics with its mechanical shark and roller coaster and just as much random bullshit as you can think of. And don't even get me started on the story. I think the devs saw how well FNAF was doing and decided to adopt Scott Cawthon's expert writing methods into their game, but at like 5 times the power. Like, if this game had lore, it got lost in this stupid-ass shopping cart dream sequence minigame. And I remember they would constantly bother MatPat on Twitter to do more theories on their god-awful games and, like, spin-offs and stuff. And MatPat just ghosted them until he retired. And it genuinely sucks because I was a stupid kid once and was actually excited about some of the mystery in this game. Like what's going on in the basement, and it just turns out it's giant Hello Neighbor or something, I guess. I don't know, man. It just sucks to see a game sell out like this. And the worst part of all of it is, there must have been a lot of toddlers out there with no standards, because they just kept making Hello Neighbor shit. There's been like 5 more games and a bunch of books and like a TV series. Like, I thought Amazon had standards, what the fuck? Anyways, Hello Neighbor, yeah, basically sold out and it just sucks. But that's all that I've got to say about it, really. I don't want this shit occupying any part of my head anymore. Roll the transition.
Terminé yo con mi ex a la reunión, tarde llegué y me gritó estando emputada que le culiaron al gato, a otra woman conocí, quiso
Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
You know how FNAF got popular by taking 80s childhood stuff that was already kinda creepy, and then just building off of that by making it more evil? Yeah, how did nobody think of this sooner? Tattletale is a game about demonic Furbies. It takes place in the late 90s and follows the player characters secretly opening their Christmas present early and finding a Tattletale inside. Side note, did anyone actually do this? Like, did you guys stalk your parents to see where they hid presents? Or like search the house for them and open them early? Cause I never did that, so I don't know how relatable this part of the game is. You gotta let me know in the comments, it's super important to me, I promise. Anyways, Tattletales are what this game calls Furbies, and they got a big fat mama that doesn't like you. This game is incredibly short and incredibly simple, so much so that I almost forgot to mention it when writing this. This game has like no depth, but I guess that's fine. Like, I watched some Let's Plays of this, and this game basically just tells you what to do with its funky ass 7-segment VHS font, and what that text tells you to do is basically play with the Tattletale toy every night, but it seems to have a mind of its own and there are like more of them. But it's not the Tattletales you gotta worry about. Like I mentioned, there's a big creepy one with a cassette player on it, which might be a completely made up thing because I don't think that exists as like a product, or at least I couldn't find one. But basically this mama one will kill you if you make too much noise, which is fine when you're alone, but if you're holding a stupid Tattletale, it will complain if it doesn't have all its needs met. Kinda like The Sims. And if this thing starts crying, you're gonna die. This game also just looks kinda shit. Like with the others, the graphics were never really my concern. I guess Hello Neighbor looked kinda cool. But for some reason this Tattletale game decided to have the worst goddamn lighting ever. Like most horror games have kinda reserved lighting systems, like nothing that uses lights too much. But for this game it was just ridiculous. Most of its problems was with bloom, and maybe that was to get Mama's eyes red and evil. But look at this fucking shit, this is too much. Anyways, this game got an update after its release, but not too much happened with it after that. I also don't remember this game ever having much of a community. Like, yeah, sure, all the YouTubes played it, and again, you had your fan songs. But other than that, there's like nothing with this game.
Have I found everybody a fun assignment to do today? When you're here, everything that they do is fun for them anyway.
Which really leaves me no choice. I gently open the door. Oh.
I have never played a dating game because they're weird. They're for like weirdos. Like these games go after the most lonely and most depressed in our gamer society. Like I don't know, I've genuinely never met someone who plays these. So I'm wondering what the target audience for this was. If you do not know what Doki Doki Literature Club is, this game is basically kind of a parody of all those visual novel dating sim kind of things that someone makes an RPG maker in like a month. Usually these revolve around you, the player, having to decide between what girls to date. The gameplay is mostly just bare bones dialogue choices. I like Fallout 4 too, how did you know? And you kinda just talk until somebody falls in love with you or something. Some of that happens in Doki Doki, but it turns out one of these girls is actually sentient. So throughout the game, the other characters just start doing weird things and it gets all kinda creepy till they all die and Monica's the only one left. It's like that Yandere shit that everyone was so obsessed with a long time ago, but I didn't mention that game for reasons. There's some more stuff here, like to do with editing the game files and different endings and stuff, but basically this game is kinda what if dating sim but evil. Still popped off though, they even got this new release from consoles and stuff with more content, and I find it really funny that the console release has a built-in like fake ass desktop computer to mimic the act of removing the game files for different things. Like look what they need to mimic a fraction of our power. I am genuinely wondering though, did anyone actually get tricked by this game? I know just about everywhere it's listed as a horror or psychological horror game, like whoa guys, don't give yourself too much credit, but like did anyone buy this game and then get their shit fucking rocked by seeing their love Sayori hanging from the ceiling? Like I'm genuinely wondering, did this trick anybody? Honestly, that's all I really have to say for this game. I don't know if Doki Doki influenced anything or anyone. I kinda glossed over most of the story, but maybe because there just isn't one. I think it's just a dating sim but evil. But maybe I missed something, I don't know. Anyways, that's all I got for Doki Doki.
I want you to repeat after me, just how I do it. Ready? Your turn. Very good. Go ahead now. Good golly.
On February 10th of 2017, we got another big indie horror hit, Bendy and the Ink Machine. You know the recipe for these games so far was to make childhood thing but like evil, and I think the Meatly got pretty close, but I don't know if the Silent Generation was gonna be playing this one, fellas. Bendy and the Ink Machine is basically if you took really old 1920s and 30s rubber hose black and white cartoons, and you guessed it, made them evil. The story pulls a trick that we've observed in these other games called explaining nothing. You get a note from your old friend slash business partner, Joey Drew, who as a character is kinda neat. He got that old Walt Disney, old-fashioned businessman kind of vibe about him. But basically you go back to your now abandoned old studio and discover and activate a mysterious ink machine. This in turn creates and or summons Bendy. Oh, I forgot to mention the branding here. Yeah, the Meatly basically went with some very subtle foreshadowing with these old cartoon characters. You see, instead of some kooky animal, Bendy is actually just straight up a demon. Like, Bendy is just the devil in the game, and in the cartoon in the game. Like, I wonder if that means something, Bendy and the Ink Machine in its own space was kind of a more modern indie horror. It at the time felt like more thought was put into the story and game than any other previously. It also had a very unique art style for the time that looked pretty nice. Basically, the entire game looks like a cartoon with black outlines on everything, and like a brownish hue to somewhat resemble the old papers and frames these animations were drawn onto, and it looks really cool, which is a lot coming from me because I usually hate games with black outlines. Borderlands looks like shit, fight me in the comments. It was released chapter by chapter, and when the devs got close to completing the game, they went back and gave the previous chapters another art pass slash remaster to match the newer chapters once they had a larger team and the skills of these devs improved. That would be like if FNAF Plus was developed by Steelwool or Scott instead of just some random guy who gave up. Like I mentioned earlier, the story starting out is very vague, but you end up finding more about this world as you play through the game, like through NPC interactions and tape players. Wait a minute. I don't want to be that guy, but the first use of reel-to-reel recording technology in the United States for simple tasks like recording messages didn't take off till the late 1940s, and it was not small tapes either like the ones depicted in the game. So Joey Drew Studios must have both invented a way of giving life to cartoon characters and cassette tapes. The Meatly also seem to be very invested in their community. Like, you can find fan songs playing on actual period-accurate radios in the game, and tape players had YouTubers cameo in them. There was also this creepy bendy you could find if you went outside the bounds of the game. These Meatly guys just seem pretty cool, and this game, while kinda simple with its story and mechanics, was still pretty neat. I don't think people quite remember how big Bendy was. This was like FNAF's replacement for a while, cause everyone started to get sick of the bear, and the Meatly took care of this community for a while. Bendy and the Dark Revival, their next game, was taking so long they made a couple of other smaller games, like a mobile game and a teaser called Boris and the Dark Survival, which has a really fire JT Machinima song for some reason. They also fired a large portion of their staff right before Christmas, but let's not worry about that, okay? Even with these little bonus games and stuff, Bendy and the Dark Revival took too long, and to be honest, interest in Bendy started to fizzle out even near the end chapters of the first game. Maybe because chapter 3 was only fetch quests, I don't know. So yeah, Bendy just kinda slowly went down to like nothing, which is funny cause the Meatly I've been talking about this whole time completely gave up on making any other games and rebranded themselves as Joey Drew Studios. Eventually the Dark Revival did come out, but I didn't even know cause nobody talked about it. So I bought it a few months back and maybe cause I'm not a kid anymore, but this game is just mediocre at best. I haven't even gotten very far into it, but the quality on the animations and visual stuff is pretty good, while the actual gameplay and mechanics and stuff just don't work super well. They got a bit more going on here than the first game, but it's all kind of like buggy. Like the game stutters for me occasionally, and I know it's not just me because I watched Markiplier play it, and it also stutters for him.
From when I slurped up the ink demon, but at the same time, why does that happen?
So I guess FNAF and Bendy are like equal now. I don't know, this game was just not worth the wait, and I hear they're making a Bendy movie, which could be cool. I definitely think this series has potential for that, but nobody is gonna watch it because there's just like not that many Bendy fans. Also, they're working on a third game, supposedly, and why's it got like a Tumblr username title? So that's basically it for a serious indie horror game. Now we move on to something a little different.
Can I fit my balls in your jaw? Can
Granny is a game. No, I can do better than that. This is the smallest game I'm gonna talk about, so I'm gonna keep it really brief. Granny is basically Hello Neighbor, but reversed. So like, instead of trying to get into a house, you're trying to get out of one. The AI is kind of the same, like Granny will leave bear traps and stuff on paths you've taken, and you basically just have to avoid her while solving some more grounded but still kind of wacky ass puzzles. And I'm pretty sure there's no lore. It's like the Granny devs saw how ridiculous Hello Neighbor had gotten and just made like a way less ridiculous edgy knockoff with more grounded mechanics. And this game ain't that bad either. Like, yeah, it's kind of a knockoff, but it looks and feels completely different. Although I think it only looks like a game from the late 90s, so it can run on a phone. And run on a phone it does, so good job, guys. I looked at the wiki page a bit to write this script, because I ain't playing this, come on now. And I saw they made a bunch of sequels, but I'm not going to talk about those, because like, what the fuck is the twins? Who are these people? So I'm not going to talk about Granny anymore. It exists. Are you happy? Can I move on now?
I don't want you around me. I don't want you living in my apartment. And I will never want you around me. And I will never want you living in my...
Oh! Sorry, Cuphead, but I don't think you count as indie horror.
This is bullshit! You let Baldy in here!
Baldi's Basics is just kind of different from the rest of these guys for one very important reason. Baldi's Basics doesn't give a fucking shit. Let me explain something. Sometime in 2018, this guy called Micah created a retro-style game for a game jam, and that game was Baldi's Basics. It was based off those mid to late 90s CD-ROM educational games that ran on like Windows 98. But there's a twist here. You see, it's that, but instead, you're not gonna believe this, it's that, but like evil. Nah, but Baldi's Basics didn't even win the game jam it was in. Still blew up for some reason though, cause how could you not love this guy? Anyways, the game had that old CGI style, but also had the movement of like Chex Quest. And what happens in the game is, you had to solve these math problems, but one of them is glitched, and then Baldi gets mad and chases you with a ruler. After he starts chasing you, the gameplay is like the classic horror collectathon, but with some genuinely good mechanics and characters that work pretty well. Like the principal, who will put you in detention if you're sprinting around him, and is also just like a Photoshop nightmare that looks really stupid but very funny. Like the rest of these characters go for like the MS Paint old CGI, but this guy is just like a picture of a guy. You also had the bully who could get caught by the principal for, well, bullying, but if the principal was not around, you had to give him an item in order to pass. There were other characters like Arts and Crafts, which was a sock puppet, and I forgot what he did. But you also had Playtime, which would make you play jump ropes until you could pass. There's more characters than that, but those are just the ones I remembered. You also had items like candy bars, sodas, and padlocks and stuff. Basically, this game was actually pretty difficult and it had some good mechanics under its belt. But there was a slight problem. Or the opposite if you really think about it. Micah's game was supposed to be a fun little game jam project, but blew up instead. He made it into a full game and made some sequel stuff, but never vibed with the whole Mascot horror thing. He never intended his game to be that scary and actively made fun of those types of games within his own game. So even though little kids, me included, like this annoying bald guy, Baldi's Basics to me always served as a critique of Mascot horror brain rot. And more importantly, Baldi was a vessel for shitposting and just general making fun of the rest of this stuff because it was just so stupid. And that's why Baldi never became like a super franchise or anything. Like the creator was never super interested in it and the fans weren't either. For the most part. It was just stupid fun, and I personally love this guy. In hindsight, it's fun to look back at this character. It's just really funny to me for some reason. Like Baldi and other dumb horror icons like Slender Man just make me laugh because at their core they were both in very small, very silly games. And Baldi's voice is just like the rest of this stuff, really dumb. So yeah, I love this guy, and this game also came out at a perfect time for me because I was starting to grow up, and I started to move on from Mascot horror stuff. I was getting into more serious matters like FPS games. So a game that was self-aware was a perfect one to send me off into a world of serious, real manly man games. I never played it though.
Copy 724, roger. Center maintain 2000. Center maintain 2000.
Talk about a nostalgia trip, we back to Photoshop monsters. I guess Momo was a thing, but Momo didn't get any good games, so we're skipping Momo. Basically in 2018, this guy called Trevor Henderson, who makes scary photoshops of weird creatures, made this image of a tall, lanky skeletal figure with a siren for a head. I swear this is some 2011 shit, dude. Basically this blew up and a lot of people made films and videos about it, but more importantly, people made games about it. There's a lot of Siren Head games, so I'm not going to discuss all of them, but I specifically remembered two. One of them was one that everyone played, which was this PS1 style one made by Modus Interactive for a game jam. Can I just take a pause real quick and talk about how from like 2018 to like now, I guess, people were pumping out these PS1 games like crazy, and only half of them are good? Like, what happened? Where did this trend come from? Anyways, this game was very small and had you walk down a path, find some dead guys, and then get chased by the titular Siren Head himself. Then there's this other game by Isolation Interactive, which unlike the PS1 game Mini Jam Adventure, was actually a full game and pretty polished. You are in the woods camping and find all of your friends are missing because the Siren Head ate them or something, and you have to leave the forest to escape the Siren Head. But none of that matters, because in this game you get a gun. Like, why do no other horror games give you a gun? I mean, Bendy gave you one, but it kinda sucked, and Hello Neighbor gave you like a Nerf gun. But this game just straight up gives you a gun, so you can actually shoot the Siren Head. which is great because I haven't talked much about it before, but this Siren Head guy, kinda creepy. This was right before ARG horror stuff was getting popular, so a creature that actively emits EAS messages and emergency alarms and just whatever else is really creepy, and I can't think of another character that does that. Like, those emergency broadcast messages can be scary in the real world. Like when you just hear the radio in a shop playing mediocre 80s music suddenly stop to blare some alarms and warn about some big-ass hailstorm in a completely different county. It's a little unsettling. I don't know, maybe you think it's tacky, but I think it's cool. And also, how is the Siren Head, like, supposed to work? The original piece, much like the Slender Man, was just an artwork without too much to go off of, so there's like no explanation on why his head is a siren. Like, is it organic mixed with mechanical, or what's going on? People also made Siren Head spin-offs like this Lamppost Head guy, which was just really fucking stupid, and they tried to get Siren Head as an SCP, but I don't think they succeeded because it's kind of hard to get an SCP approved nowadays. And Trevor Henderson did not want it to be an SCP. But basically, that's all I've got for this fella. It's a cool creature, but much like the Slender Man, that's really all we have. So now to move on to something a lot more familiar. Or unfamiliar.
It's a room and it's in the back. It's too scary, guys. We gotta get out of here.
To understand the backrooms, I'm gonna explain why liminal spaces are scary, because some people just don't really understand the concept or why they're scary. So if you know what liminal spaces are, skip to this likely inaccurate timestamp or check the description for a more accurate one. Alright, okay, time to get serious. Nearing the end of 2019, some odd videos popped up in my YouTube feed. Videos titled Places You Have Been in a Dream, or oddly familiar places with creepy music. While these videos didn't always succeed with what their titles promised, I still watched them because I found them intriguing. This was the beginning of the liminal space trend. Liminal spaces are interesting on their own because they highlight the eeriness of crowded and mundane locations when devoid of life or features commonly associated with the space. Liminal spaces are small details in our day-to-day life. Hotel hallways, malls, subway stations, public pools and bathrooms, and empty parking lots. All places that during our activities there serve as a background. They are not the focus point of our lives, but we get uneasy when they are highlighted and stripped of their activity. They can seem especially strange when they are altered to be uncanny, or can be nostalgic, resembling a place we know, but not exactly as we knew it. Liminal spaces are very surreal, and the horror of liminal spaces thrives when focusing in on the small details of our lives. That's what makes it so powerful. Okay, we got that out of the way, we understand that now. So basically, before even all that, somebody on 4chan made a post about a scary series of rooms with no exit, playing off this idea of unfamiliar familiarity. The original post talked about some goofy stuff like real-life no clipping, but despite that, the backrooms idea still blew up. I think it did that thing where it blew up a little bit initially, but then it blew up like bigger a year later, but I digress. Unfortunately, I can't even think of a specific backrooms game anybody played. They're all the same and none of them stuck with me very well. This was just sort of an idea, and I think a lot of the backrooms content was just videos, like the Kane Pixels guy who made these very real looking backrooms animations that are like their own movies with lore. And he did this when he was 16, bro. I can't even make a good looking Gmod animation. What am I doing with my life? But there were a couple of games. The most popular one is called Complex Found Footage, but like a lot of liminal space content, like nothing happens in this game. It's just a walking simulator, and you know the craziest part? That might be the best backrooms game. A game that is the same experience as booting up a Gmod map alone. That's the best we got? Well, not exactly. There is this little Roblox one that I played. I know Roblox's reputation, but just hear me out for a second. It's called Apirophobia, however you say that, which means fear of infinity. Basically, this game has you go through a lot of different liminal spaces, backrooms included. It is multiplayer and it's actually well made, and it takes itself pretty seriously. I don't know, I recommend you check it out. Other than that, the Backrooms content, at least on YouTube, was just brain rot. Like, what the fuck is a smiler? How is this even supposed to be scary? And a lot of the content that we have nowadays just kind of removes everything scary about the Backrooms. Like, what made the Backrooms liminal space stuff so scary was the unknown. Like, where is this? How could you survive? Is something out there watching you? But I'm not asking why Heavy Team Fortress 2 is here. I know why Heavy Team Fortress 2 is here. Liminal space stuff has just been overdone, so I'm gonna move on, and things are starting to get worse. Poopy Playtime is a good game, but I don't like it. Let me explain. So when the demo came out and everyone played that, I was really excited for this game. It was like Bendy again, mostly because Bendy was taking so long. And this one, instead of an abandoned animation studio, was an abandoned toy factory. No explanation as to why you're there, and all the employees are gone. Oh, and Mark's kid thing made sentient evil on your bingo cards, because that's what we got for this one, folks. Okay, in all seriousness, this isn't the most unique game, but like I said, it had been a while, so I was excited for this one. And then we got the word of choice for these past couple of years. We got allegations. Let me explain something. Mob Games, the studio behind Poppy's Playtime, created a channel called Enchanted Mob. I know this not because a 30-year-old man who was vaping while streaming Security Breach told me, but because I used to watch Enchanted Mob. Come on, you can't tell me you didn't watch this Minecraft Survive the Night video, right? No? Just me? Alright. Anyways, the first little drama these folks got into was this channel got so popular that they made some other channels. The important one being a channel called Animation Sins, obviously inspired by Cinema Sins. Now if you don't know what Cinema Sins is, that's good because it means they're falling off and dying, but let me explain. It's basically a channel that takes a popular movie and then makes jokes that lightly criticize it for the strangest things. Like this channel tries very hard to set every movie in reality, and then uses that as a platform for the most lukewarm Brian Griffin-ass critiques and jokes ever. But it's fine, cause you know, that's big Hollywood, big man, Mr. Moneybags movies. But the Enchanted Mob people decided that sounds pretty good, let's do that for indie animation. And yeah, that's kinda weird, bro. And guess what? They reviewed their own animations from their own channels on this channel and then scored those animations higher than the animations of other people. Okay, that's fine, whatever, just a little weird, nothing to get riled about. Like some real investigations had to take place to find that. But that's not the important drama here, folks. We got something better. These Enchanted Mob people had a Discord where they would talk to other YouTubers in their genre of video, that being Minecraft animations, and they would actively try to recruit people into their conglomerate of big-time Minecraft animation. One of those people was a kid, and he refused them. So what was their course of action? Mark, bully a kid on your bingo cards. Like, huh? Why would they do that? Well, like, who does that? That's like a Call of Duty lobby. They apologized to him eventually, but I don't know. Are they ever gonna live this down? I mean, really. Not only that, but by chapter 2 of Poppy Playtimes, they started selling NFTs with lore on them. Huh? Are these people just evil? Are the people making this game just, like, evil? Why would they do that? They apologized for that, too, but MatPat called it out.
And the NFTs that this game released. I feel dirty just saying it. Here's the thing, Mob Games, creators of Poppy Playtime, yeah, they made these things and they hid lore behind them, which is totally not cool.
I think if MatPat calls you out, you're done for. I don't know, maybe the other games I discussed today had evil developers, but I never heard about them. Maybe it's because I got older and I started to consume the Lord's internet drama slop, but I swear the Tattletale devs never bullied a child through Discord. But maybe I'm missing something. Let me know in the comments. Anyways, oh yeah, the game. It's good so far. My biggest compliment is that it has some really unique puzzle mechanics, barring on quality with some portal levels. Basically, throughout the game, you get these sticky hands, and these hands can be used to connect electricity, hit buttons, and do some other stuff I'm forgetting. These you get in chapter 1, and they're pretty fun throughout. You also end up finding a lot of VHS tapes to use in this game for lore hints, but for the most part the lore is very straightforward. Evil Company uses orphan kids to make living toys. The experiments go wrong and the toys are evil. In the most recent chapter, from the time I'm writing the script, we as a character finally get to see what happened to all the employees. Mark everyone died on your bingo chart. Basically, through the security camera footage that has less frames than a Gmod animation from 2012, you get to see all the pup playtime employees get murdered, and the monsters took all the bodies and like ate them, I think. The game ain't done yet, so I really don't know where the story goes from here. They keep teasing a prototype, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was John Poppy himself. But yeah, for the most part, this game is nothing new. Like, the graphics are better than most of the games I've discussed, but that's just a product of time and like a lot of YouTube money. I will say though, there has been some actual scary parts in this game, mostly through the repeated main enemy chasing you through twisted paths. But hey, if it worked the first time, why not do it again, right? But really, in the most recent chapter, they had this purple cat thing that would gas the children and actually makes you hallucinate. His design is super creepy, but the character is criminally underutilized in the chapter it's in, especially considering how much game time the other characters have gotten so far. But like I said, this game's unfinished, so I should really keep my mouth shut till it's all done. And these people make brain rot, so I'm gonna move on. Roblox is a platform for making video games and possibly the worst game engine ever made. I will definitely talk more about Roblox in another video in the future, but for now just know that most of the games on here are indie, like itch.io, and most of them don't do horror very well, like itch.io. There were some cool horror games like Silent Dark or Before the Dawn, but those are just empty wastelands now. So what do we have? Well, we got some doors. You know those parts in Scooby-Doo chase scenes where everyone runs through repeating rooms while being chased by some ghouls or maybe perhaps some goblins? Well, this game isn't exactly like that, but it kind of feels like that. Basically, you got an arcade-style randomly generated series of hotel rooms and a multitude of enemies between you and the exit. They all got that enemies behave differently thing going on that a lot of good horror games have, so you gotta learn how they all work and stuff. The enemies in this game do have some strange designs though, like one of them is just a Garry's Mod next bot, I'm not even joking. The creature designs don't really help the horror very much either. But the fear of this game is not what makes it scary. There's something way scarier in here than the enemies. You know how I said this game was arcade-like? I didn't mean casual arcade-like, oh let's tone down the difficulty and just make it kind of fun and relaxing. Nah, I mean arcade-like you have to pay money to revive yourself or just start the game over. I think this and Poppy Playtime are the only games I've discussed so far that have built-in microtransactions. Who else but Roblox? But if we ignore this massive oversight, this is a pretty good horror game. I don't think there's much in the way of a story, like oh you got this old ass hotel with goopy ghouls. MatPat tried anyway, God bless him. Yeah, but this game can probably be beaten in an afternoon if you can get past how unforgiving it is. I don't know, it's kinda cool to see a Roblox game go this mainstream, or at least in a positive way, because there's no way you're gonna see Markiplier play natural disaster survival. I'ma be honest. So yeah, that's Doors. It's had a couple updates, but I didn't play them, and besides that whole Robux business, this game is completely free, so you should definitely check it out. When's this movie supposed to come out? Iron Lung is a game that has a PS1 style. God, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it, get me out. But unlike some other retro games, this one is actually pretty good, but very short. Its premise is kinda silly. Basically, you're in a submarine exploring an ocean made entirely of blood. The submarine is completely shut and not made very well. It's all like crusty, rusty ass metal. You also have to use this confusing navigation system to take pictures of stuff in this blood ocean. and you get jump scared by a fish. I think there's more of an explanation of why this ocean is completely blood. It's like sci-fi world building bullshit. I think what really makes this game unique though is you can't really see anything. Like I said, they welded you in this sub, and the only visual you get of the water is a damn like black and white camera. The rest of the navigation is a map and a grid and stuff, and it's kind of tough and maybe more accurate to how people actually have to drive submarines. But most of the game is just that and suspense building. It's pretty damn small. Granny might have more going on, but I thought I would mention it because it's still kind of cool. Like, nobody would think to make a goddamn game with an ocean of blood, because that sounds really stupid, but here we are. And it's not too bad, like, good job, bro. Another reason I bring this game up is because Mark E. Plyer is planning to make a film about it. Like an actual on the theater get your popcorn type movie. Will it be good? I don't know. His YouTube Red shows were good, but those were comedies. And then his horror show on Amazon, Edge of Sleep, sucked ass, so I don't know. That stuff was filmed a while ago, and maybe Markiplier got better at acting, but I'm probably still gonna watch Iron Lung whether it's good or bad. I am wondering though, how are they gonna make a movie inside one tiny ass submarine? We shall see. Y'all ever watch Dora the Explorer like Go Diego Go? Alright, bear with me now. What if that, but yeah, let's just say evil? Amanda the Adventurer gives me hope. It's an actually long game, it has actual mysterious lore, and it's got all the pieces of a Mascot horror. And it's well made. Like, I don't know, this game had a short hold on people's attention, but like it's better than that. Everything just moves fast now. Basically, the premise is you inherit this old house and decide to watch these old tapes in the attic. The tapes kind of work how a Dora episode would go, but this game has a unique mechanic where Amanda, the adventurer in question, will ask the player a question, and if you answer incorrectly, or sometimes correctly, the game is just rigged, like Baldi's Basics, Amanda will go evil and torture Wooly. Like, she doesn't really hurt you, but Wooly has to go through so much, and let me just say something about the animation here. I think it's attempting to mimic old-ass CGI, but Dora was never 3D, so I don't know why they would do that. Despite that, for some reason the animations, especially for Wooly, are very good even for today. Like, whoever animated this guy's face did way too well, he's so expressive. Maybe that was the intention, because Amanda basically moves like a Pam Tree video, but yeah, as you go along, things get more spooky and evil. But this game don't just got tapes, you can also just explore the room you watch the tapes in. It has a bunch of escape room like puzzles which can be completed by watching the tapes, and also give you a pretty chilling moment for a Mascot horror game. Overall, this game is just good, and like I said, it gives me hope for the bright Mascot horror flavored future.
I am the beast that grows the wheat. Look, Jumbo Josh!
They should call this game Shit because it's a piece of shit. We better get some Opila bird pussy buddy.
And those dashes of hope, that faint light at the end of the tunnel is fading away, because this is the worst game I'm gonna talk about. Like, you know how I talked about Doors earlier and said it was made in Roblox, yet Doors still look pretty good? Well, the opposite's true for this game. This game looks so bad, I thought it was made in Roblox. But it's not, it's just that bare bones. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know what this game is about. I could never sit through watching somebody play it. I think it's a lot like Poppy Playtime, with a whole children's daycare, but with evil toys kind of thing. But outside of that, I have no idea what's going on in this game. And can it even be considered scary if the eel in Super Mario 64 is scarier than this entire game? Is Garten of Banban even horror? And the game doesn't just look bad, it's also just straight up not optimized, and overall poorly made. Like, the evil scientist looking odd button you carry around in this game has the most polygons in the entire game, and is one of the most simple looking objects in the whole game. Like, I'm just really disappointed this game exists. Maybe it's because I'm an old man now and I just don't understand how this one blew up, but it just seems like the most basic elements of a bendy style horror adventure game. This game is like when people sketch art and they're at this stage where they're drawing the circles to figure out proportions and stuff, except this ain't even like someone who draws a lot. This is just a doodle. I guess that's fine. Doodles are pretty fun and harmless, and the first chapter of this game is free, but that's just the gateway drug, because the rest of these chapters are $10 a piece. Like, what the fuck is that? Bag is bag, but $10 for this? I don't know. I just don't see it. I really don't understand. I think this game may have been popular because it was the first like intended kid-friendly horror thing, and most of these fandoms of the games I've discussed today, there were always toddlers that were part of these communities. Sometimes it made sense with the more tame and not scary ones like Hello Neighbor and Baldi's Basics, but then you had like FNAF, which was designed to show horror very subtly without gore or direct on-screen deaths, but was still definitely not made for kids. I'm pretty sure the sister location maintenance guy would get you in trouble on YouTube nowadays. Despite that, I would still go to the store sometimes and see a kid who's not fully able to read or write yet wearing a shirt from a game where children get killed and mutilated inside the parts of a robotic cartoon character. Thank you, modern parents, for paying close attention to the media your child consumes. So I think Garden of Banban may look crap to me because it's made for young children, but so were some of these other games, and I still think this is the worst one. But all of that you already knew. I'm just regurgitating the general consensus. God, I hate video essays. I don't want to talk about this game anymore. It's shit, I'm moving on.
As you have not met the profit quota, your performance has been deemed below standard. Welcome to our disciplinary process.
Holy peak! Holy peak. You know what this game is about, but if you somehow don't know, let me set the stage. Retrofuturism, empty complexes, mysterious creatures, PS1 graphics? God, I'm losing my mind. There's a lot more to this game, but I'm gonna go over the basics. This game is first and foremost a multiplayer game. I mean, you can play it single player, but not many people do. It has that local voice chat stuff very similar to Phasmophobia, so basically if a monster kills your buddy, you will hear them scream a couple rooms over and go quiet as they have been ripped to shreds. It can be very horrifying, but given the nature of this game, it's mostly just hilarious.
I don't know where we are, once again.
Oh, I'll show you. Come here. I want to go home. Hey, I think we should leave.
Lethal Company also released at a perfect time for clips of this game to be converted into shorts. So a lot of you may not have played this game, you definitely should, but you have probably seen funny clips of people dying in it. But what is this game actually about? Well, basically you start in the boat, or what is a very square spaceship, to one of the many moons in the game and explore abandoned structures in search of random crap to sell for money. The problem is these abandoned structures contain SCPs. I'm not even joking. If any of you have played the game SCP Containment Breach, the game I mentioned way earlier in the video, you're gonna recognize some of the creatures in this game. They aren't exact copies to be fair, but we got blind dog-like thing that has strange anatomy and is a fleshy red color and finds you based off sound, tan concrete made statue that only moves when you aren't looking at it and kills you when it gets close to you, and a traditional theater mask that controls you when you wear it. But maybe I'm being a little dumb here, because there's definitely non-SCP inspired enemies, like the loot bug, which is actually called a hoarding bug, and will hoard items that the player needs, and also has the scariest sound effects in the game. You also legit just have a giant spider, which works how you think a giant spider would, and the Bracken, which is a dark mysterious dude that tries to sneak up on you and kill you. And the Thumper, which is just a dog that will kill you. This game doesn't seem to really have a theme with its enemies, like one of them is literally a nutcracker, and we just have the turrets from Half-Life scattered around the place sometimes. I think it lacks a theme in enemies because Zeekers, the creator, just adds whatever would be cool, like a giant robot that shoots rockets and makes baby noises. And since we're on the topic of noises, let's talk about the sound design. This game and FNAF have the most unsettling and just overall peak sound design ever. Lethal Company is just super good at making everything unnerving. All the sounds are always at strange pitches and just come in at unexpected times. I imagine a portion of them are just stock sounds or stuff from freesound.org, but they all feel really old and out of place with each other. The entire game feels like an obscure old movie or just like an old 90s horror game. And sounds or not, this entire game is just straight up unsettling. But all of that doesn't matter so much because the game is just incredibly goofy. You have so many items in this game that are either just not useful, completely cosmetic, or just silly. It's like a horror sandbox with other people. And this game isn't just a hodgepodge of random crap, like it mixes all this stuff together pretty nicely. And this game also has some class too. Like navigating the ship isn't just some dumb menu where you click on planets. Nah, you have to open a Fallout Terminal Linux user as computer and type commands to get where you want. Which is just the coolest shit ever, because most games won't do that. Most games won't do that for you. But aside from all that, this game is just fun. Lethal Company is just a good time. And I can't really say the same about a lot of the other games we've discussed. I think a lot of games focus on lore too much, and I think this game has some, but it doesn't really make sense anyway, so it doesn't matter. Oh, and you can mod this game very easily, which makes it even funnier. So please, if you take anything away from this video, it should be to play this game with friends. Cause it isn't just funny on YouTube Shorts, it's funny in practice, I promise. Oh, and Zeekers, hey, longtime fan, Silent Dark gave me nightmares as a kid. Listen, I got one word for you. Console port. Nah, just think about it, okay? This game is huge, right? You're a millionaire, okay? So pay some people, maybe the guys who ported Unturned, I don't know. Get some people to port Lethal Company to console, okay? Because I know the PS5's got voice chat, and I unfortunately happen to own one. And I think the people who don't want to spend $900 and 8 hours building a computer should be able to play this game. Because Grammy's PC can't run this, okay? It's not actual PS1 graphics. So console port, please, I think that would be great. Indigo Park is unfinished. I mean, so is Poppy Playtime. That story isn't wrapped up yet, but Indigo Park is very unfinished. Basically, you got a brand new game here, so what's the deal? Well, you got an abandoned theme park where the mascots come to life and try to kill you. Yeah, I'm tired too, but this script is almost done, just hold on, just wait a little bit longer. Cause this one is made by a YouTuber, so it has to be better. Who is the YouTuber? Well, it's this guy named Unique Geese. Oh yeah, the game. Well, Like I said, it's unfinished, which is fine because it just means that it's buggy, but let me tell ya, this game was extremely buggy. It ran worse on my RTX 2060 Super than Security Breach did on my 980 Ti. If you don't know what any of that means, basically when I streamed this game, it was very laggy and kept crashing. But that's fine, whatever. What do we have that's good about this game? Well, it does have a kind of a cool mascot character that talks to you. He shows up on monitors and guides you through the game. He's a slightly purple raccoon named Rambly, and is voiced and animated very well. He is the vehicle for a lot of the light humor and fun moments in this otherwise frankly not very good game. In fact, I would say the only reason to try this game is to see this guy, cause there's not much else in here yet. And since there's nothing, I can't really say much more. What I would say to Mr. Geese is try to make your game less like these other games and make it more like your own thing. Because if this video isn't evidence enough, this market is painfully oversaturated, and this game is not helping. And nor will it be very interesting unless you change it up a bit more. But that's all I have to say about that. And that's basically it. That's all the Mascot indie horror games I thought were worth mentioning. Obviously, I probably missed a couple, but if this video does well enough and if there's a huge demand, I might make a follow-up. But let me ask you this, do you think the indie horror scene has a good future ahead? But when I started writing this video, I went in with the assumption that the 2020s were full of brain rot and just worse games and concepts than the 2010s. But after looking at all this crap, I think it's about the same. And it's not exactly like we escaped the 2010 stuff either, mostly thanks to Friday Night Funkin'. We have various creepypastas like Sonic.exe coming back, and a lot of Generation Z people like me look back at these old games with fond memories, which brings them back to a new audience. So maybe the future of horror games is gonna be okay, as long as these games aren't leading the charge. But let me know, we're only halfway through the 2020s and there's still a lot more time for things to change. Anyways, that's all for that video. If you guys enjoyed and want to see more, please subscribe. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video specifically, and I hope you all have a good day. Goodbye.